Happy Friday! Okay, so I just got out of the shower and I am ready to rock. And I have props with me as well. So we are going to talk about the five senses. So I've been doing a challenge on Instagram with a few other ladies, and I'm going to kind of link this to Ayurveda because that's what I do. And I want to break down the five senses, what dosha they're associated with, and how to either meditate or do something to help enhance that sense. So let's start off with sight. Sight is associated with pitta. And when we think of the pitta dosha, pitta is that fire, that intensity. These are the people who are go, go, go people. They love to get things done. They have a to-do list a mile long and they're going to do everything today. So that's the pitta intensity. So sight goes with pitta because we get laser focused. We really start to hone in on things. So with that one, what we can do, I have a candle, and it's my lovely gardener lady, and so it's not lit, but what I would do is I would light this, and I would set this in front of myself, and I would just stare at the flame. So if this was lit, I would just sit there and stare. I'm not going to do it because you can do it for like 3 to 5 minutes, or even a minute. So if you just want to take a minute for each of these activities, also totally fine. But this is how, again, we can hone in. So we would just candle gaze, and we would stare without blinking. So I would be staring at this flame, our pretend flame, and try not to blink. And that kind of refreshes our eyes. So you might let those tears run down your cheeks. And a lot of the times the pitta dosha, pitta sometimes we kind of stuff emotions in and don't always let those things come out. And so that's why it's really important if you feel a little out of balance or you feel a little burnt out or just really on the go. That's why candle gazing can help kind of refresh that and help your eyes kind of reset. So that is our first one with pitta, with this sight, is candle gazing. You can also stare out at a lake. I love water. So water is really refreshing and nourishing for pitta because pitta's outside in nature tends to calm them down. And so that's another reason why even just staring at trees or just going outside can help just soothe us and soothe that energy. So that would be another option if you need to calm down, if you need to stop from the go, go, go mentality, which we're really out of balance in the pitta dosha in general in the world right now. And so that's kind of where, easing that up. How can we ease up? And all of these actually are really great tools to do that. So the next one is scent. So I have a little essential oil blend, and this scent is associated with kapha. So scent, we always think of, like, it smells delicious. So it's an essential oil blend that one of my friends, Lauren Bodwell, made for us and the mastermind that we're in. And so you would just sit and you would maybe just smell. And if I had a candle going, you could also do the same thing. You can have a candle and just focus on the scent of the candle. Maybe you just rub a little on you and then you would just let it sit there. And this is how you can hone in on your scent. Now, scent is something that we sometimes lose as we get older. And so trying to hone in on our scents is something that's really important. So like, even if you just and then, just put your arm down and just kind of let it soak in. Just let it feel. What do you smell? Can you pick out the particular scents that you're smelling? Like, I know there's frankincense in here. I've a citrusy flavor, I can tell. I can't tell exactly which. I mean, maybe if I just sat and sniffed my arms some more, I could, but I'm not going to do that right now. But those are, some of the things that you can kind of do to hone in on that smell scent. And again, kapha is a dosha associated with that. Kapha, we think of that earthy, motherly love. I'm going to give you a hug, super grounding energy. So that is why scent, and that is also why taste goes with kapha. So I will do taste next. And so that is how you can kind of bring in, actually I was asked this yesterday by one of my clients, is basically how to get out of that pitta, go, go, go mentality and bring in some more kapha, because she happens to be pregnant and she is a strong pitta. And I'm like, I can totally relate. That was actually my focus. I told her, I'm like, that was my focus this entire year. In January, that was something I wrote on my, goals, was to bring in more kapha into my life because I was so pitta that I really wanted to cultivate the kapha. And I've actually done a really good job of it without even knowing, because when I was at the retreat a few weeks ago, I was like, wow, I can really feel my kapha dosha really balancing me out. It had balanced my pitta. And a lot of that is from me doing some of these Ayurvedic practices on a weekly basis, for at least 3 hours while I'm, in class learning. But then practicing them outside because we have homework, we have other days to meet. I'm practicing them with my new moon circles. I'm practicing them with my clients. And so the more that we can kind of expose ourselves to some of these things, the more that we're going to bring up that kapha energy. So if you're a female who is the go, go, go pitta type, that's one way to bring up some of that, earthy, motherly love, like huggy type of energy. And so that's where we can kind of see the scent and the taste go with kapha. It's just a little more grounding. And just that, like when we eat, is that sensual, that sensual feeling. And so next we'll go into taste. So taste again is also kapha. I actually have coffee here today with me. This is not Ayurvedic whatsoever. If you have coffee, you want to put cardamom and coconut oil in it to make it more Ayurvedic. And that's just so there's less acidity in the coffee. So especially if you're a pitta, coconut oil is definitely key, and that will keep you balanced. That is my one, if I'm going to do something, I'm not perfect across the board, and this is the one that I choose to be. I just notice how caffeine affects me. If I have more than 2 cups, I generally just have 1 cup a day, sometimes 2, but that's when I can feel that spike. And that's really what we're trying to get to, is paying attention to those things. So if we're going to sip on this, or if we're going to have, we did this with a piece of dark chocolate. I didn't want to have dark chocolate at 9 o'clock in the morning. And the dark chocolate I have is an Ayurvedic dark chocolate. And if you want to taste some stuff, that has so much spice in it that that would be actually a perfect one to do. So maybe later I'll do that, but it's not my cup of tea, so to speak, right now, because it has so much flavor and it's got so many different cardamom and spices, and I think there's ginger in there, so you can really taste the bite. But something like that is really good to do the taste with, so you can pick out all of those flavors and all those scents. For me, I put a little vanilla almond milk in my coffee, just like a splash. And so that will give it a little different taste. So when I do this, when I show you guys what to do, you'll kind of see, hopefully I'll be able to pick out that vanilla. So what you'll do with your, chocolate, or with whatever you savory item, if you're having a drink, just kind of noticing. So we'll just take a sip now, or have your chocolate. And I can taste that vanilla. So that's kind of what you want to notice, is just kind of can I slow down? And I am taste is really big with me, because I can taste different waters. That's a sensitive one for myself. And I'm super picky about what water I drink because of it. And so with the coffee, I'm the same. I have to have Califia Farm vanilla unsweetened almond milk, and I can taste the difference. And that is from just honing in on that. And that's something that when you kind of get that and you kind of know this is what I like, that's what you can stick to. And so, or you'll kind of know ooh, this is not almond milk I like. So usually the ones in the cartons, I don't like them. Silk almond milk, I don't like. I can taste the difference. And that's how we want to get, because again, as we age, that also tends to be a scent that we start to lose. So the more that we can kind of connect with it and hone in on it, the more that it's going to stay with us. So those, again, kapha dosha, we have our scent and we have our taste. So moving on to the vata dosha, what is associated with that? Well, sound is. So sound is good with vata as well as touch. So we'll tackle sound first. So sound, any music, we can make us feel grounded or ungrounded. So if we're dancing to tunes, all those tunes where you're oh yeah, this is my jam, and you want to dance. Or you have other ones where you're I want to slow dance, I want to slow down. And then it's usually if you're slowing down, sometimes you touch, you're holding a partner that you're dancing with, and that is all bringing in the vata dosha. So as you can see, it has ability to uplift or to ground you. The sound does. One way to play with sound, and one way that I like to, is because we don't have enough silence typically in our world, just have nothing around you and just sit in silence. So that's something I like to do when I come down in the morning. So I'm usually up really early, and so I'll just sit in my chair. Some days I put on music, other days nothing, and I just sit in silence, and I set a timer, and I let myself just kind of meditate. And it's really nice because you can tune into things what can you hear outside? Maybe you hear birds starting to wake up. Maybe your neighbors, leave their house. Maybe the dog is barking. Maybe your cats are trying to get in your office. All of those things you start to notice. And that's something that's really nice to explore, is that sound. And then noticing if you can't sit in silence, if you can't sit with quietness, start exploring why. So that's another thing that I want, because I've been through this myself, is that, I don't want to sit in silence because I don't want to hear what it's telling me. And that was how I was probably less than 10 years ago. Probably 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. But that's how it was. I always had to have something busy. I always had to have the TV on, the radio on. Something had to be going because I didn't want to sit and just listen to what my thoughts were telling me. But I did like to go for walks, and occasionally I would have nothing. But a lot of times I would put stuff in my ears. And so I'm not even having my own thoughts coming through on my walks because I'm listening to a podcast, I'm listening to music. So those are some different ways to explore silence, and just noticing if you're feeling really ungrounded, that's when we need to unplug. We really need to cut everything and just get back to the silence, get back to you again. And that's one thing that I will, I'm going to do over the weekend, because I'm already feeling, I'm like, I need to like unplug from social media again. And by social media, I actually don't mind. Facebook isn't as bad because I don't have the Facebook app on my phone. I just have this Pages so I can go live and talk to you guys. But my Instagram, it's just like, it's the constant like button. And just notice if you're doing that too with Facebook or with Instagram, or maybe it's your email, whatever. You just constantly are clicking. And maybe it's just like a 10-second lull in your day and you just automatically pop something open. And to me, like that's not the silence, that's the noise, and that's the Vata dosha starting to go like this. And the autumn time of year is the Vata dosha time of year. And so we really start to get like this, and I can just really feel like that energy right now. And so for me, I just know I need to step away, I need to unplug, and just be back with myself, get centered, get aligned before I will go back and mingle in social media. And those are some things that we don't always take the time to notice and to do. So if maybe you're feeling that, start to slow down, have those pockets of time so you can notice what you are actually called to be doing to help align yourself again. All right, so that's what I got to say about sound. Next up is touch. So touch is the last one, also associated with Vata. Also the same thing, it can go either way. So it can ground you or it can uplift you. So we can think about touch in the way that, and I gave this great example with kids. So on the self-care challenge, a lot of people were posting they love the touch from their kids. Now, that's awesome. Me too. But there gets to a point in your day, especially if you have more than one. I only have one, but I know this from my mom and from my friends who have more than one. There gets to a point in the day where you're like, I'm done. Like, I've been touched, I've been grabbed, I've been yanked, I've been called, like just needed all day long. And so there gets to a point where you're like, okay, no more touch. Like, I'm overstimulated. And that is that Vata energy again, because the kids have energy. We all have our own energy. So when you're getting like pulled on and tucked and like, hey, I need you, like they're giving you that needy, like Vata frantic energy. And then you're just getting a little bit more riled. And so we can see how that works to ground us, because maybe your partner, like they might ground you with certain touches. And then maybe like there's other certain touches with kids where you're like, just leave me alone. So that's kind of the difference between those. And one way to kind of explore this, and I will say this one can be triggering one. Touch can be super triggering. So that is also like the preface, just depending on what has happened in your life. I know that this one can be like people have had experiences, and it can go, you might be like, I can't do this one, and that is fine. But I will show you a way to explore touch or just kind of feel. And this is just my mentor, Katie Silcott's taught all of us this, and bring like a feather. And it can feel super awkward. So if you haven't done this, or given yourself a self-massage, like grabbing essential oil and doing yourself a self-massage, like rub on your arms and on your legs, that is wonderful to do every day, actually. And that is something they suggest. Like I do it after I get out of the shower. I also dry brush. So if you have never dry brushed, a dry brush is also a great option to do for touch. Or if you want more of like a sensual or fun touch, a feather, and you just go up and down like your arms, your neck, your legs, whatever you want. And that is also another way to explore touch. So you can kind of take that, again, you can do that daily. So they recommend lots of different massage and self-massages, huge in Ayurveda. And that's just to get things moving. And so for like the actual like physical, I'm going to massage, put some essential oil on, massage me, it's to get the lymph moving. It's to get the blood flowing. If you have bad circulation, myself, that actually helps. It helps stimulate it. So that's one of the reasons I dry brush. It's also one of the reasons that I do the self-massage is I do have varicose veins. And what those are, it is just like, it's the blood. It's all pooling together. And so I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to. There's an herb that's supposedly supposed to help with increasing blood flow, and it's supposed to be able to take care of those naturally. I'll let you know if that works, because I know I'm not the only one who has varicose veins. Mine are super visible. So that's why I was kind of like, I don't care about them, but I don't always like to look, like sometimes they're really bad in shorts. And they also hurt. So that's the one thing, because at night I can feel my blood flow stop. And it's in that side. It's in the side that my varicose veins are sticking out in. And that's not healthy. And so that's kind of where you have to start, incorporating that massage, seeing what you can do to help get things moving. And so I guess that's what I got to say on that. So I'll let you know if the herb works. I have to go look at my notes to see which herb it is. And it's, again, herbs. We're just learning about herbs. And I will do a whole different one on that because there is, for the most part, they're pretty safe. Like if you're pregnant, some of the herbs are definitely not something that you want to take. High blood pressure, there's a couple. But otherwise, they're pretty safe to do. But I will talk about those on a separate Facebook Live. All right, so that's kind of what I have for you guys today about the 5 senses. So let me know how it goes, and if you guys try any of these, give it a try, explore, see how it feels, and enjoy. All right, I'll be back again next week. I was trying to think of my podcast. Pamela Gold was on this week, and it was all about peaceful power parenting or peace power parenting, and we talked about yoga as well. So it's super good, especially if you're a mom, to tune in and just get some like different refreshers or maybe different ways to look at like parenting. You're like, oh, like for me, I'm like, I really got to work on saying, instead of saying don't do that, I am like, okay, I got to say, hey, can we make a different choice? Or hey, how about this? Rather than going to the don't. And that's just an old habit that I have to work on breaking. So, like little things like that you can learn. So anywho, that's what I have this week. I do have a new moon circle that's Sunday in St. Paul. So if you guys are local, I have 3 spots I just opened. I was going to cap it, but now that I already have 9 people in, I'm like, hey, I'll just move my kitchen table out of the room and I'll open it to 12. So 12 is kind of the number that we like to keep it at, 12 and under, because it gets to be a little bit much to share, because there is sharing if you guys want to share. And I'm going to go into it a little bit more in detail on my next Tuesday's podcast, all about new moon circles. So if you're interested in learning more about them, you have a whole podcast episode to tune into. All right. So that's what I have for you guys this week. Thank you so much. And I'll be back again next week. Bye, guys.